A humble cleaner endures humiliation at the hands of rich women, only to reveal a shocking hidden identity that changes everything. The morning sun spilled gently through the tall glass windows of the bustling office. In the midst of polished floors and the soft clatter of high heels, a figure appeared at the entrance. Madame Nana, once a woman of immense wealth and power, now wore a faded wrapper, an old blouse, and simple rubber slippers. Her headscarf hung loosely, and in her hand she carried a mop and a bucket. No one knew her secret. This fragile-looking cleaner was the woman who had built the very empire they all served. The office went silent for a moment, as if the air itself paused to take notice. Then came the first ripple of mockery. "Who allowed this old woman in here?" Linda whispered loudly, wrinkling her nose in distaste. "Maybe she got lost on her way to the village," added Anita, smirking as the others chuckled. Madame Nana's heart tightened, but she said nothing. "Let them see only what I allow them to see," she thought, pushing the mop across the floor with steady, deliberate motions. Every muscle in her body ached from the work, yet she endured, her eyes scanning the room with quiet determination. As she moved past desks, she noticed a young woman at the corner, Wendy, sitting at her desk with her focus entirely on her work. Unlike the others, Wendy did not sneer, laugh, or even glance with pity. She simply nodded politely as Madame Nana passed. "This one is different," Madame Nana thought, a small warmth rising in her chest. "Old woman, you missed a spot," Anita snapped suddenly, stepping forward, a cruel smile tugging at her lips. Linda joined in, folding her arms. "Or are you deaf too?" she added, laughter bubbling from the surrounding desks. Madame Nana swallowed the sting of their words, forcing herself to keep moving. "Patience, Nana. Observe. Learn who truly has a heart," she reminded herself silently. She bent low to pick up the mop, the bucket heavy and cold against her fingers. Then, a soft voice reached her ears. "Here, let me help you with that," Wendy said quietly, her hand steady as she reached out to guide Madame Nana's frail frame. Madame Nana looked into Wendy's eyes and felt a flicker of something she had not experienced in years, genuine concern. Not sympathy. Not pity. But kindness. The laughter of the others seemed distant now, almost meaningless, as Wendy whispered gently, "Are you okay, Mama?" Madame Nana's chest tightened. It had been so long since anyone had called her that, with such warmth. Could it be that even in a world filled with greed and arrogance, true goodness still exists? She wondered silently. For a moment, the office seemed frozen, the air thick with unspoken tension. Anita and her friends returned to their desks, but the seed of change had been planted. Madame Nana knew then, with quiet certainty, that Wendy was someone worth watching, someone whose heart was untouched by envy or pretense. As she continued her work, she whispered softly to herself, a moral rising with the rhythm of the mop against the floor. The office hummed with the usual chatter, but Madame Nana's presence brought an uneasy tension. She moved slowly across the polished floor, mop in hand, every step deliberate. Her back ached, her arms burned, yet she continued, determined to see what lay beneath the surface of her employees' hearts. Then, without warning, the first strike came. Anita stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the tiles. "Look at her," she sneered, folding her arms. "Is she always this slow, or is she just pretending to work?" Linda laughed loudly, tilting her head as if examining a curious insect. "Maybe she needs a walking stick," she added, the words dripping with mockery. The others joined in, their laughter echoing through the office, cruel and high-pitched. Madame Nana felt a flicker of anger, but she kept her voice soft, almost inaudible. "Endure. Watch. Learn who truly matters," she thought, steadying her trembling hands on the mop. Anita, unsatisfied with mere words, stepped closer and gave Madame Nana a sharp push. The frail woman wobbled, losing balance. She fell to the cold, tiled floor, the bucket slipping from her hands and sending soapy water pooling across the shiny floor. "Oh! She's so useless," one of the women cried, laughter bubbling from every corner. "Maybe she should just go home and rest," another mocked. Amid the cruel voices, one presence remained calm. Wendy, seated quietly at her desk, watched. Her eyes did not mock, her lips did not curl in amusement. Instead, she moved with careful thought, reaching toward Madame Nana's hand. "Are you all right?" Wendy asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it carried a weight of genuine concern. She grasped Madame Nana's arm, steadying her frail frame with surprising strength. Madame Nana looked into Wendy's eyes and felt a wave of warmth. So this is what true kindness feels like, untainted and selfless, she reflected silently, her heart stirring with quiet gratitude. The other women continued their laughter, but Madame Nana barely noticed now. Her attention was fixed on Wendy, whose small acts of respect and decency shone like a beacon in a world of greed and cruelty. Anita, seeing Wendy intervene, scowled. "Why are you helping her?" "She's just a cleaner," she hissed, frustration twisting her perfect features. Wendy met her gaze calmly, her voice unwavering. "Because she deserves it," she said simply. Madame Nana straightened herself slowly, her hands trembling but her spirit unbroken. In that small, quiet gesture, a seed of hope was planted, proof that goodness could stand firm, even in the harshest of environments. As she resumed her work, careful and measured, she whispered softly to herself, a moral rising above the noise and mockery. The office had quieted down, leaving only the soft scrape of the mop against the polished floor. Madame Nana's hands trembled slightly as she steadied herself, still recovering from the shock that had sent her sprawling moments ago. The other women had returned to their desks, their laughter fading into whispers, but one pair of eyes remained fixed on her, Wendy's. Wendy moved closer, her presence calm and reassuring. "Let me help you, Mama," she said softly, her voice carrying neither pity nor judgment, only genuine concern. She placed a gentle hand on Madame Nana's arm, steadying her, her fingers warm and comforting. Madame Nana looked into Wendy's eyes, searching for any hint of falsehood, any shadow of mockery. There was none. Could it be possible that someone in this world is truly kind? She wondered, a small flicker of hope stirring deep within her heart. "Thank you, my daughter," Madame Nana whispered, her voice tight with emotion. The words felt foreign on her lips, yet they carried the weight of a lifetime of longing, a longing for sincerity, for warmth, for someone who could see her for more than her exterior. Wendy smiled, a quiet, effortless curve of her lips that seemed to light up the dull, tense air of the office. She picked up the wet rag and bucket without hesitation, helping Madame Nana clean the spilled water with care. Every movement was deliberate, gentle, and respectful, as if the task itself was a gesture of honor rather than labor. Anita and the others glanced up, their smirks faltering as they realized Wendy was not mocking the older woman. But Madame Nana's attention was elsewhere. It was on the young girl who had chosen kindness over cruelty, respect over vanity. So this is who she is. Madame Nana thought quietly. Not swayed by wealth, not blinded by appearances, she is genuine, pure, and brave. Her heart swelled with a quiet admiration she had not felt in years. In that moment, a bond was formed, subtle yet unbreakable, built on mutual respect and honesty. Wendy finished helping, standing back with a polite nod. "Are you comfortable now, Mama?" she asked, her voice soft, sincere. Madame Nana nodded, a tear threatening to spill, quickly wiped away before anyone could notice. The office hummed around them once more, but Madame Nana felt a sense of calm she had not known in a long time. Amid mockery and envy, Wendy had shown her a rare, priceless truth, that kindness was not weakness, and that a good heart could shine even in the darkest corners. As Madame Nana returned to her work, moving with quiet determination, she whispered a thought she would carry with her always. The hum of the office returned, filled once again with the clicking of high heels and the faint scent of expensive perfume. But beneath the surface, a different energy simmered, a quiet storm of envy and disdain. Anita and Linda leaned toward each other, lips curling into sly smiles, their eyes darting toward Wendy, who sat quietly at her desk, focused on her work as if the world around her did not exist. "Did you see how the boss noticed her today?" Anita whispered, tilting her head with feigned innocence. "Just one little thing, and suddenly she's the center of attention." Linda scoffed, rolling her eyes. "I can't believe it. That cleaner, talking to him like they're equals. Who does she think she is?" Their laughter was soft, yet sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. Across the office, whispers began to ripple. Small voices joined the tide of gossip, each one aiming to belittle Wendy further. "I heard she's only here to climb the ladder," one murmured. "She's pretending to be humble, but we all know what she wants." Wendy felt the shift in the air, the cold weight of judgment and jealousy pressing in from all sides. She glanced up briefly, her expression calm, unshaken. Why does envy always seek to destroy what it cannot have? She thought quietly, refusing to let their words pierce her spirit. Anita leaned closer to Linda, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "She's lucky the boss even notices her. One day, he might see her for what she really is, and then she'll have no choice but to prove herself." Linda nodded, her face twisted in a mix of irritation and awe. I hate how effortless she is. No makeup, no designer clothes, and yet, people respect her. How is that possible? The gossip swirled through the office like a dark cloud, subtle yet poisonous, touching every corner. Even as some of the junior staff cast curious glances at Wendy, she remained composed, responding to no one, speaking to no one, and letting her actions speak louder than their words. Madam Nana, still observing from a distance, felt a quiet smile tug at her lips. Oh, this is the true test, she thought. Not the fall or the push, but how she stands when the world gossips and doubts her. The office continued its rhythm, the whispers growing louder, but Wendy did not flinch. She organized her papers, typed with steady hands, and treated everyone with the same calm dignity she always had. Every eye on her, every sneer and whisper, only revealed more about the heart of those who envied her than it did about her. Anita and Linda exchanged frustrated glances, realizing that their words held no power over the girl they sought to shame. And in that quiet, almost invisible defiance, Wendy showed them a truth they could not touch: character cannot be faked, and integrity cannot be broken by envy. As Madam Nana watched, she whispered softly to herself, a moral settling in the space between the whispers. The evening air was cool as Wendy approached the modest house, curiosity and apprehension mingling in her chest. She had expected a cramped, neglected home, perhaps a place that mirrored the struggles of a poor cleaner. But instead, the house before her was neat, modest, and full of quiet dignity, every corner reflecting care and warmth. Who is this woman really? Wendy wondered, her heart fluttering with anticipation. Madam Nana opened the door with a gentle smile, her eyes twinkling with a mixture of mischief and observation. Come in, my daughter, she said softly, gesturing toward the simple but inviting interior. The aroma of freshly cooked food, rich, comforting, and unmistakably homey, wafted through the air, wrapping Wendy in an unexpected warmth. Wendy stepped inside, taking a hesitant breath as her eyes scanned the room. The kitchen was small but orderly, the table set with care. A pot of steaming groundnut soup simmered gently on the stove, and a plate of fufu rested nearby. Madam Nana motioned for Wendy to sit, and she did, feeling a strange mix of humility and respect. I hope you like simple food, Madam Nana said, her voice calm yet filled with unspoken expectation. It may not be fancy, but it is made with care. Wendy's eyes lit up as she glanced at the dishes. It smells amazing, Mama, she said, her tone genuine. She picked up a spoon and tasted the soup, savoring every bite. She did not flinch, she did not complain, instead, she ate with a quiet appreciation that seemed to make the room glow. Madam Nana watched intently, noting every reaction, the way Wendy's eyes softened, the small smile that formed as she enjoyed the meal. This is more than respect, this is understanding, this is heart, Madam Nana thought, feeling a surge of hope she hadn't felt in years. As they ate, Wendy spoke of her family, her dreams, and her simple joys. She never asked about wealth, never commented on the modesty of the house. Instead, she shared herself openly, her sincerity filling the room in a way that money and luxury never could. Madam Nana's heart swelled with quiet pride. Here was a girl who valued people over possessions, who measured worth not by material things but by kindness, patience, and respect. The test was simple, yet profound. A woman's heart could be revealed not in grand gestures, but in small, honest moments. When the meal ended, Wendy helped clear the dishes, her hands gentle, careful, and respectful. Madam Nana finally spoke, her voice soft but certain. You have a good heart, my daughter, she said, placing her hand lightly over Wendy's. Not everyone would see the value in simplicity, but you understand it. Wendy smiled, unaware of the weight of Madam Nana's approval. And in that quiet exchange, a bond was sealed, a trust quietly formed between two souls who recognized the beauty of a good heart. As Wendy prepared to leave, Madam Nana whispered a thought that would linger long after the evening ended. The airport buzzed with life, luggage carts rolling, families reuniting, and taxi drivers calling out to passing passengers. Amidst it all, a tall young man stepped through the arrival terminal, his posture straight, his suit crisp, every detail speaking of refinement and confidence. Kwame had been away for years, studying and working abroad, yet the city that had once been home now seemed both familiar and strange. As he moved through the crowd, his thoughts were consumed not by the fans or attention, but by the legacy he was about to inherit, the company his father had built, the responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. But beneath the surface of duty, there was a quiet curiosity about the people he would meet, about the heart of the office he was about to enter. When Kwame arrived at the company the next morning, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Women at their desks straightened, crossing their legs and adjusting skirts, makeup reapplied, all eyes suddenly aware of his presence. Yet amidst the whispers, the clicks of heels, and the faint scent of perfume, something unexpected caught his attention. In the middle of the office, bent slightly, working diligently with a mop and bucket, was an older woman. Her movements were careful and precise, her hands rough from years of labor, yet her focus was unwavering. Something about the scene felt different to him, out of place, yet commanding attention in a way that could not be ignored. "Excuse me, Mama," Kwame said softly, stepping closer, his voice tinged with surprise. "Why are you cleaning? Where is the janitorial staff?" The woman nearby tittered nervously, unsure how to respond. Anita stepped forward, her voice sweet but patronizing. "Oh sir, she's just a cleaner. She's used to this kind of work," she said, smoothing her hair as if rehearsing her part. Kwame's eyes narrowed, a sharp frown forming. "Does that mean she doesn't deserve respect?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The room went silent. Then, from a desk nearby, a young junior staff member spoke up. "Wendy." Her voice was quiet, confident, and unwavering. "She deserves all the respect in the world," she said, looking directly at him. Kwame turned to meet her gaze, and in that instant, something stirred within him. Who is this girl who speaks with such honesty and courage? He thought, feeling a connection he could not explain. It wasn't just her beauty, though she was striking in a simple, effortless way, but something deeper, a quiet strength and kindness that resonated with him instantly. He watched as Wendy returned to her work, unshaken by the whispers and the subtle envy around her. And as he observed the older woman she defended, a sense of recognition sparked in him, though the full truth remained hidden. For now, all he knew was that these two women, one humble, one dignified, had captured his attention in a way that no wealth or status could command. And in that moment, Kwame understood something vital. The Grand Royal Hotel's lobby gleamed with chandeliers and polished marble floors, a world away from Wendy's quiet, modest life. She hesitated at the entrance, her heart pounding, unsure why an unknown message had summoned her here. Every step felt heavy, yet she reminded herself, she had nothing to fear if she had done nothing wrong. Why now? Why me? She wondered, the question lingering in her mind like a shadow. At a corner table, leaning back with a self-satisfied smirk, sat Anita. Her presence radiated confidence, arrogance, and a sense of entitlement. As Wendy approached, Anita slid a brown envelope across the table, the weight of it symbolic of a test far greater than money itself. "Listen carefully, Wendy," Anita said, her tone soft yet chilling. "Take this money. Leave the company. Walk away quietly. Forget about Kwame. You'll be safe, comfortable, and free from trouble." Wendy stared at the envelope, her fingers hovering above it. The sum inside could cover her family's debts, her mother's hospital bills, her brother's school fees. Could survival ever be worth sacrificing my integrity? She thought, the temptation gnawing at her resolve. Anita's eyes darkened as she leaned forward, her voice dropping into a threatening whisper. "You think you can just survive on honesty? In this world, innocence is weakness. Stay away from him, or things will get much worse for you." The words hit Wendy like ice, yet she remained silent, her hands folded calmly in front of her. For a moment, the hum of the hotel seemed to fade, leaving only the tension between them. The envelope sat there, a symbol of compromise and temptation, waiting for her choice. Wendy's gaze flicked to the other hotel patrons, none aware of the silent moral battle unfolding at the corner table. She thought of Mama Nena, of the warmth and trust she had received despite the world's judgment. "This is not just about me, it's about who I want to be," she realized, drawing in a steady breath. Slowly, deliberately, Wendy pushed the envelope back toward Anita. "No," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "I won't take it. I won't leave. And I won't compromise my principles for money or fear." Anita's smirk faltered, replaced by a flash of rage. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, her nails digging into the table, a predator confronted with unexpected defiance. But Wendy remained calm, her posture unwavering, the quiet strength in her eyes cutting through Anita's intimidation like a blade. For a long moment, the room held its breath, the unspoken power in Wendy's decision resonating more than any sum of money could. She walked away from the table, shoulders straight, heart steady, knowing that while the path ahead would be difficult, she had not betrayed herself. As the doors closed behind her, leaving Anita fuming, Wendy's inner voice whispered the truth she now understood fully. The office felt different that morning, charged with whispers and sideways glances. Wendy walked in as usual, clutching her notebook, unaware of the storm waiting for her. The atmosphere thickened with tension, and a strange unease prickled her senses. Why does it feel like everyone is watching me? She wondered, her heart tightening in her chest. At the center of the office, Anita stood with her phone raised, a triumphant smirk curling on her lips. "Everyone, listen to this," she announced, pressing a button. Instantly, Wendy's own voice filled the room, twisted and edited to make it sound like she had boasted about Kwame noticing her, implying ambition and manipulation rather than honesty. The staff erupted in laughter, some pointing, some whispering cruelly. "See? Just as I said, she's fake," one of the women sneered. Another added, "All that innocent face was just an act." Wendy's stomach knotted, her hands trembling, but she didn't speak. She didn't argue. She had done nothing wrong, and yet the world around her was determined to rewrite the truth. Her colleagues' eyes shone with envy, delighting in her humiliation. Anita's satisfaction was palpable, her plan unfolding exactly as she had imagined. Wendy's cheeks burned with shame, but a quiet fire burned inside her heart. "I cannot let them define who I am," she thought, taking a slow, steadying breath. Kwame, in his office, was finishing a meeting when the commotion reached his ears. Curious, he stepped into the open workspace, scanning the scene. The laughter died instantly as his sharp gaze swept the room, finally landing on Wendy. She stood stiff, silent, eyes fixed ahead, bearing the weight of the false accusations with a quiet dignity that spoke louder than words. "What is going on here?" he demanded, his voice calm but authoritative. The office went silent. Anita tried to maintain her composure, forcing a sweet smile. "Oh, sir, we were just having a little fun with Wendy," she said, her voice sugary but brittle. Kwame's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening as he studied her, and then he turned to Wendy, his tone softening. "Are you okay?" he asked. Wendy blinked back tears, swallowing hard. "Yes, sir," she whispered, though the sting of humiliation still pricked at her heart. Even in this moment of public embarrassment, Wendy's integrity remained intact. She had not retaliated, she had not lied, and she had not compromised her values. Her silence was a strength, a quiet shield against the venom around her. As she finally sank into her chair, alone yet unbroken, a single truth crystallized in her mind. The morning air was crisp, yet Wendy felt a heaviness she couldn't shake. She had arrived at work earlier than usual, her mind focused on tasks, unaware that her world was about to shatter. Whispers floated through the office like dark clouds, and people stared as she walked past, their eyes sharp with judgment and curiosity. "Why is everyone looking at me like I've done something terrible?" Before she could reach her desk, there was a firm knock at the office door. Two uniformed police officers stepped inside, their expression serious. Wendy froze, a cold dread settling over her. "Wendy Mina," one of them asked. Her voice caught in her throat as she nodded, unable to find words. "You're under arrest for theft and fraud," the officer said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Wendy's hands trembled as she tried to speak. I didn't do anything," she stammered, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. But the officers were already moving to handcuff her. The click of the cold metal around her wrists felt like the world had shifted, trapping her in a nightmare she could not escape. The office fell silent, coworkers staring with a mixture of shock, curiosity, and some with thinly veiled satisfaction. Wendy's heart pounded as she glanced at the faces around her, some shocked, some amused, but no one stepped forward to defend her. Her mind raced, trying to piece together what had happened. How could this be real? Who would do this to me? Outside, waiting in the shadows, Madame Nana observed everything with a calm intensity. She saw the injustice, the calculated cruelty that had ensnared Wendy, and her heart ached. "This cannot stand. She is innocent, and I will make sure the truth is revealed," she thought, her hands tightening around the strap of her cleaning apron. Though the world had turned against Wendy for now, Madame Nana knew that justice could still be restored, and she was ready to act. At the station, Wendy was led into a cold, dark holding cell. The walls seemed to close in on her as panic and disbelief threatened to overwhelm her. Yet even here, in the loneliness of wrongful accusation, she clung to one small thread of hope. She had lived with honesty and integrity, and she knew, deep down, that truth had not abandoned her. The night stretched long, the city lights dim outside the barred windows, and Wendy whispered a quiet prayer for guidance and protection. Madame Nana remained outside, a silent guardian, her eyes never leaving Wendy, her mind already planning the steps to clear her daughter's name. And in that moment of despair, Wendy learned a painful yet essential truth. Kwame's hands trembled as he stared at the blank screen. The CCTV footage, every recording from the week, had been erased. His chest tightened, a cold realization sinking in. Someone wanted her to take the fall, but who? His mind raced, piecing together the events, the subtle signs, and Wendy's unwavering honesty. The young woman who had endured mockery, threats, and a false arrest, she had never wavered. Could he have doubted her for even a moment? Meanwhile, Madame Nana stepped forward, her presence commanding yet gentle. The office fell silent as whispers spread. No one had suspected the quiet cleaner was the owner's widow. Wendy, still shaken from recent events, looked up in awe. Madame Nana's eyes met hers, full of warmth and unspoken reassurance. She was never just a cleaner, she had been watching, protecting me all along. Kwame's voice was steady, yet filled with quiet fury. Bring Anita and the others here. Now. The villains entered, their confident smiles faltering as the reality of the situation dawned on them. Anita's eyes darted around the room, fear creeping in where arrogance had once lived. The edited audios, the bribes, the harassment, all of it was exposed. There was nowhere to hide, no lie strong enough to withstand the truth. Wendy stood beside Madame Nana, her hands still trembling slightly, yet her head held high. Kwame looked at her, admiration and relief mixing in his eyes. I see now, he said softly, you have been honest, patient, and kind through everything. Not once did you stoop to deceit. Wendy swallowed hard, the weight of injustice lifting as clarity and justice settled in. Maybe kindness really does conquer all, she thought, her heart swelling with quiet joy. Madame Nana placed a gentle hand on Wendy's shoulder, her voice steady and proud. You are strong, my daughter. You stayed true to yourself even when the world tried to break you. The villains were escorted away, their faces pale with shame and defeat. The office, once filled with envy and malice, now echoed with respect for the young woman who had shown integrity above all else. Kwame turned to Wendy, his expression softening. You have nothing to fear now, he said, offering a reassuring smile. Wendy felt a warmth spread through her chest, the trials of the past days finally giving way to hope. Madame Nana, watching silently, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her test had been passed, her son's future secured, and Wendy's heart and character proven unshakable. In that moment, the office transformed, not just in order, but in spirit. Kindness, courage, and honesty had triumphed over deception, arrogance, and greed. Wendy's journey had been difficult, yet her integrity had opened the door to justice, respect, and a life filled with dignity. And as the day drew to a close, Madame Nana whispered softly, a moral echoing for all who had witnessed the truth.